Thank you guys so much for being here with me today. I am so excited to be here with Marc Mawhinney to talk all about how he has really grown an amazing online business, helping coaches grow their own businesses. So Marc is a lifelong entrepreneur who helps coaches get more clients without paid advertising. He achieves this with his coaching programs, his podcast, Natural Born Coaches, his Facebook group called The Coaching Jungle, and his exclusive print newsletter, The Secret Coach Club. He's been a speaker at events like Social Media Marketing World, frequently makes media appearances, and contributes for entrepreneur.com. You can learn more about Marc at naturalborncoaches.com, and of course, by listening to us during this awesome interview today. So Marc, thanks again so much for being here with me.
Hey, Amanda. Thanks
I'd love to know a little bit of your backstory. Have you always been a coach and consultant for coaches, or what were you doing before this kind of online business world?
Yeah, when I was in grade 1, I decided I wanted to be a coach, and that was like my lifelong mission. And then everything I did was aimed towards it. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, my whole background started right out of university in real estate. So for a good chunk of my life, throughout my 20s, I was a real estate guy, and I built up a good sized real estate business. I had about 100 agents and employees with me here in Canada. And then everything was going great until it collapsed in 2009. I'm not the only person in real estate that went through that. I'm discovering. I talked to a lot of people with similar stories in around then. But everything collapsed. I ended up going through not one, but 2 business closures in the span of a couple of years. And I was in a really dark place. And basically, make a long story short, how I got into coaching, I didn't know anything about coaching until that dark time. I got helped back to my feet by several coaches and mentors as well. And when I was ready to get back into business, I thought, you know what, I'm sick and tired of real estate. Don't want to do it. But this coaching thing, I've seen that it works, and this seems really cool. So I'm going to become a coach. And that's where that started in 2014. And here we are almost 7 years later.
That's awesome. I have a lot of friends that made a big transition back in 2008, 2009, not by choice. And interestingly enough, I think we're at another pivotal point in our kind of economy and climate here in 2020/2021, where people are now looking at doing the same thing, getting maybe by choice and maybe not by choice. Some people have been forced to close their doors. Some have decided they're ready for a different way of life. And coaching is really the number one way to get there faster, in my opinion. Yeah. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I feel horrible for restaurant owners, gym owners, things like that in 2021. My closure, I mean, yeah, the economy, there's definitely some changes and things that hurt the real estate market. A lot of it was through my own stupid decisions, and I have myself to blame for that. In 2020, 2021, it's governments across the world, I feel, overreaching and just acting very bad and basically shutting people down. So I feel bad for those entrepreneurs because they didn't even have a chance with being jerked around by politicians who most of them have never even run a lemonade stand in their life. Yeah. And now they're the ones who are making decisions on the economy and everything else in our lives. But yeah, with coaching, I was approached by a coach when I was at my peak in real estate, or when I was like really rolling. A coach came into my office, and I didn't really know what a coach was. And he wanted to talk to me about me hiring him as a business coach. And me being a cocky 20-something-year-old, I thought, like, why would I need a coach? Look at what I built here, basically. And then I shooed him away. No, I was polite, but I just said, no, thanks. And when everything closed, I thought, wow, maybe I should have listened to him and had a coach in my corner, because things may not have closed, or it would have been much less messy had it had a good coach in my corner. So lesson learned, but I always tell people, don't brush aside coaching, because it is very powerful. And I don't care how motivated, how disciplined you are, how positive you are. It's tough to hit your peak potential just by yourself. You're going to go through ebbs and flows and some tough times. But if you have a good coach with you, it's much easier.
Yeah, I totally agree. Why don't you tell me a little bit about what it was like making that transition for you, starting your own business? Did you start in the online space, or did you start coaching people in your community, say just kind of one-on-one in person, whenever you first started your coaching side of things?
So I jumped right in online. I didn't really have any desire to work with local people. And that was probably some residue from my real estate fallout
Mm-hmm.
where I said, you know what, my part of the world, hey, I love it. I love this part of Atlantic Canada. It's not extremely forgiving for entrepreneurs who go through business closures. Whenever there's anything, a restaurant or any type of business that closes, it's front page news in the newspaper,
Yeah.
and usually the business owner is a bad guy or a bad girl, and they plan this, and now they put a whole bunch of people out of work, and they're worse than Hitler. So it's not a really entrepreneurial part of the world. It's getting better. But for me, the other thing too was I thought I want to expand my reach. I felt like I was trapped in a small sandbox here locally for years with real estate. And I thought I'd really like to connect with people elsewhere and work with. So most of my clients, about 90%, are in the United States now. A lot of clients, California. And I mean, here I am talking to you, you're in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
You know, I would not have talked to you if I was still selling real estate or a broker in New Brunswick, Canada. So I like that part of it. I like the fact that I can reach a heck of a lot more people this way.
Yeah, I love that part of my business as well. And it's global. It's not even just here in the, North America. I get to work with people from all over the world, and it's really, really powerful. So how did you get started in building your business online if you hadn't really been in that space before? Was it overwhelming for you, or is that where the help of another coach or experienced business person came into play, is that they helped you get that set up? How did you go through that?
I hired a coach. Was getting started because I didn't really know the online space. When, for example, when Facebook first came out, I was like, this seems kind of stupid. Why am I going to update what I'm doing?
Yeah.
Same with Twitter and other stuff. Now I'm a big social media guy because I've had to for my business. I get a lot from Facebook. I've got a Facebook group with 20,000 members and stuff like that. So I see the benefits of social media, but back then I was like, geez, this is kind of silly.
Yeah.
So I hired a coach, and it probably wasn't the right fit. He was a law of attraction coach, very woo-woo. Not saying there's nothing to the law of attraction, but I got a little frustrated because things weren't rolling in the early days. And I said, like, what's going on here? What do I have to do? And he said, Mark, I think you need to visualize a little bit more. So I want you to lay in bed for an extra hour a day and visualize success and stuff. And I say, look, I journal, I visualize, I do affirmations, I got vision boards, okay? I'm doing all this stuff, okay? Just tell me what's going on.
You're ready for some action. You're ready to put your feet on the ground and do some things.
I think he was a coach who was coasting on the success of The Secret years before, and hey, here's what he was doing. And so that's fine. The approach I've taken, I've hired good coaches and bad coaches, but I learn from every coach, because the bad coaches show me what I don't want to do myself as a coach and stuff. So anyways, I got started with him, but a lot of it was throwing spaghetti at the wall, to be honest, and seeing what would work, what doesn't work, and so on. I didn't overthink things, and I think it's probably a plus for me overall. It hurts me at times, comes back to bite me in the ass at times, but for the most part, I just jump. I don't overthink. And it's like that old saying, entrepreneurs are someone that jumps off a cliff and builds a plane before they hit the ground. That's me. And I just got started. Now, I was lucky because I had a sales gig with a telecommunications company here in Canada for that first almost a year after I started my coaching business. So that gave me some security that I could pay the bills.
Yeah.
But then I always said, hey, once my coaching surpasses the income or my salary from that job, then I'm jumping. And sure enough, I did. And I'm very grateful for coaching because I was able to build it up on the side in the early days till I could go full time.
Yeah, I think that's great. Do you think that's a great way for people to get started even today? If they have a decent job, and they're just really looking to make that transition, do you think creating that coaching program, creating that even online course, and doing it on the side while you're still, earning your income from your job, do you think that's a good way to still go? Or do you think people should, scrap it all and go all in on one? I get that question a lot, and I just like to see your opinion on that.
Well, we've all heard that classic story with the invading army going to the other land, from the sea, and then the general tells them to burn their boats. Yeah. So basically, if you don't win, you're dead. There's no retreat. I don't really agree with that, to tell you the truth. I think too many people are saying you have to go out there, go all in, go quit your job today, tell your boss to go shove it, and then the problem with that is tomorrow or next week, you need a client to pay bills,
Yeah.
and you're going to take on some people you don't want to work with. So I'm not suggesting that you keep your job for 10 years while you're building coaching on the side. That's probably a little too long, but there's nothing wrong in the early days just keeping that to give yourself a runway. So you're not stressed out. And that's exactly how I did it. And I think it's really bad advice. I mean, unless you're absolutely miserable in your job, you're working 120 hours, you just don't have time. But if you can squeeze out, even 20 hours a week for your coaching, I've always said that you can build a successful coaching business part-time if you give it full-time effort when you're working. So I know coaches that could get more done in 20 hours a week than other coaches that are, quote, working 80 or 100 hours a week, but they're playing around on, social
it's not
media,
really working.
watching
They're not having
YouTube.
an intentful experience on doing their things.
Candy Crush, or the new one. Not to knock it, I'm going to try it, but everyone's talking about Clubhouse, of course.
Yeah, I haven't gone there yet.
Yeah, I've talked. I'm on there. I haven't done much with it yet, but I've talked to some people who spend 8 to 10 hours a day on Clubhouse and stuff, and I'm like, geez, that seems like a lot. I'm hesitant to take on more stuff like that. So you have to be smart with how you're spending your time.
I totally agree with that. The reason I asked that question was one of the, I don't want to say posts that I dislike seeing the most, but whenever people are just scrambling to figure out how to make money online and they're at the point where they have to make some money. And I want to help people build their businesses online successfully, but it's really hard to, in my opinion, create something from that space. From that have to create, like, do or die space. It's really, really hard. And so that's why, and I'm coming up on, fun fact, my 10-year, I guess, anniversary of me leaving my career. And
Congrats.
In February of 2011 is whenever I put in my resignation as a high school science teacher. And so I did it the same way that you did it, and that probably a lot of other successful coaches and entrepreneurs have done it as well. We did it smart. I didn't know what I was going to do in February of 2011, but when I made the decision, I had until the rest of the school year to figure it out, to decide what exactly I was going to do to replace that income so I could continue to grow. And so it wasn't like February, whatever day it was, I went in and I just said, I'm out of here. And then no more income. I have kids, mortgages, things, I have responsibilities.
Well, at least you didn't follow the footsteps of another high school science teacher, chemistry teacher, Walter White, in Mexico. Breaking Bad. If anyone who doesn't know, I'm making a Breaking Bad joke. So you didn't become a drug kingpin, Heisenberg, or anything.
No, I didn't. And I could have, probably.
There you go.
Back in 2011,
we would have never expected
you.
I think it's important to set what I call an Independence Day. So to set a date, circle it on the calendar and say, I want to be completely transitioned over by this date. Probably shouldn't be 2 weeks away. Maybe it's 6 months down the road. I've had clients that have transitioned in 3 months from their job to part-time coaching to full-time with it. Maybe it's 6 months. Maybe it's a year. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And by the way, there's also nothing wrong with having a job. I find that a lot of people get guilted because when you look in our space, we're in a bubble where everyone's like, you got to be an entrepreneur and you're a loser if you're working a job and, you're giving up and stuff. There's plenty of people that love their jobs. So if you love your job, you're getting compensated properly and you're having a good life, hey, that's great.
I totally agree with that. I totally agree. We get in our bubble. I love that you said that because I always think I'm in this little bubble. And sometimes I get really tired of being in this little bubble. But there's a lot of judgment. And so I really pride myself on when I coach my clients on allowing them to have the experience that they're really going for, regardless of what anybody else is saying about it. However much money they want to make, I don't put any judgment on what their goals are, who they want to help, and what they want to do. And I think in our bubble, it comes with so much judgment. Like, you don't have a real business if you blank, or, there's just constant berating of other people. And if you can block out that noise and just go and create what you want and what's in your own heart and how you want to serve others, then you're going to be fine. And it's taken me a long time to get past that bubble of judgment, I guess you could say. It makes you second guess everything you're doing whenever you have these seemingly influencer type people claiming, what you have isn't real, or that what you have doesn't matter because you aren't doing it this certain way. And I dispel all of that and say, you just go and do the thing that lights you up. That's really all you're supposed to be doing anyway.
Well, that's why I limit my social media, and I recommend to my clients too, don't spend all day on Instagram, Facebook, everything else, because it's inevitable that you're going to be comparing yourself with the person who's further along. And it's crazy when I see new coaches who've been at it, I don't know, months or maybe 1 year, and they're like, my website sucks. It doesn't look as good as Tony Robbins or Brendan Burchard's or something like that. It's like, oh, come on. It's very frustrating. I always say, assume that people online, they're talking like that, giving advice or putting out this perfect image. Assume that most people online are full of it, unless they prove you otherwise, because most people are.
I completely
so
agree
easy
with
to and I've seen so many of these fly by nights that roll out of bed this morning, and they're some sort of expert, and they're helping people make $1 million in a week, and that they're full of it, but they do get some people, rope people in, or they wouldn't be doing it. Just they're not in for the long haul because they can't get any repeat business because they can't deliver after that first sale.
Yeah, I agree with that. And a lot of times in my business, I have been kind of the cleanup crew for those coaches, getting the, kind of defeated puppy dogs after they've given all of their money to those other fly-by-night coaches to now come in and get the real results and the real coaching that they needed.
A good friend of mine told me a story recently that someone that he works with, one of his clients, went from corporate to online, spent $30,000 on this funnel and ads, and not one sale. So we're not literally not a single dollar. And of course he's very dejected because 30 grand just, pissed down the toilet, with it. It's one of the reasons what I do. It's a lot of organic stuff. So when I started my coaching business, I was frustrated when I first started because in my real estate days, I had all this money to throw towards marketing. This was back in the Stone Age. So I was doing a ton of radio ads, early 2000s, postcards, print ads. I was everywhere, I couldn't order a pizza in my home city. If I'd say my name, they would know my slogan, and I had to stop saying my last name because I didn't want them to spit in the pizza or something for, so I just blanketed my city and stuff. When I got into coaching, I'm like, I just didn't have access to that anymore. And I'm like, that really sucks, because I could buy these expensive ads, funnels, do all this other stuff. It was a blessing in disguise because it forced me to roll up my sleeves and actually do the work that didn't cost anything. And it allowed me to hone my message and to get really good at that and get consistent and disciplined and so on. So I think I had an advantage compared to people who are taking a severance or something from their corporate gig and coming into the online space. They get a little bit spoiled because great, I got $50,000. I'm going to try to buy a head start or buy success. And it doesn't always work that way.
What is your favorite thing to coach people on? So you have, you help coaches get more clients in an organic way, which is awesome. And especially right now, we could talk a lot about that because of the changes happening just online with advertising and things like that. But if you got to choose your perfect thing that you get to coach people on a daily basis, what would that be?
Boys, so there's a couple recurring themes that come with what I'm doing. I have something that's called my 3 pillars. For me, those are the places and that I have to be at every day to make sure that I've got business coming in. My 3 pillars are podcasting. So it's my show, Natural Born Coaches, and coming on shows like this. So both sides of the mic. So there's podcasting, there's Facebook, but especially the Facebook group where I have a good sized community there. And then there's email marketing, but specifically daily emails. I've been doing daily emails now for since 2016, and I've never missed a day. So I'm a big fan of those. My big thing is helping the coaches choose their 3 pillars and then making sure they stick with it. And their 3 pillars could be different. Probably will be. Because Jim Collins says if you have more than 3 priorities, you don't have any. So I hate to see coaches that are trying to do 188 different things instead of just focusing on those couple things and being consistent with it. Everything I do with my business and helping my clients is all about simplifying. So you're not pulling the hair out of your head and you don't have these I know you have whiteboards behind there, but yours are actually very clean and orderly. But I've seen some people's whiteboards. They look like the chalkboard in the movie A Beautiful Mind with about that math material. Who was it? Russell Crowe was the start in it. And it's just all over the place. Just looks like someone threw up on the chalkboard. That's what a lot of people's funnels look like. And I'm like, oh, you're just stressing yourself out here.
I totally get it. There are so many options. And especially if you don't have the direction and the accountability and the support of a coach, you're just going to keep throwing noodles at the wall, like you said, over and over and over again. And you're going to try everything and you're going to get worn out. You're going to get burnt out and you're not going to get the results that you want. But there's so many things with video marketing, podcasts, YouTube channels. Now we have the Clubhouse thing. There's email marketing, which you can do in a wrong way, by the way, as well. Cold DMs, like all these different strategies that people are trying to use. And you can tell that there are some people that just try to do all of that and you cannot keep up with it. And it gets confusing for your audience as well, I think. So I love the 3 pillars. 3 is my number. So anything that comes in 3s is my thing. Like I love doing things in 3s. Yeah, you have a very awesome, successful Facebook group, the Coaching Jungle. And, obviously getting started, it can be discouraging for some people because I can already hear them say, oh yeah, well, he has 30,000 people in his group. So yeah, he's going to be good at it. Well, you know what? You started with none, right? You started a Facebook group from square one with 1 person in it and it was you. So what was your key to growth over the years to get it up to where it is now? It's a very active, supportive group. We don't have to go into the nuances of the rules and the ways that you run it because it is run very well. But what about somebody that's going to be one of their strategies is adding in a Facebook group to their business model, but they're kind of discouraged because it's like 2 people in there right now. What's the advice for keeping going with that?
Well, you don't need 20 or 30,000 members to have a successful group. There's some days that I wish I didn't have that many. I shouldn't put that out there, but when I'm got to be honest, when 99.9% of people in the jungle are great, there's that fraction of a percent that I feel like a babysitter and I'm trying to separate 2 toddlers. I'm like, are you an adult and in business here? You're actually crying and complaining about this, like grow up with it. So anyways, that's just my little rant. Some people take Facebook groups too seriously. They get a post deleted and it's the end of the world for them. And I've just said, go start your own group then if you can't follow the rules. You don't need 20,000 members or so. I know people who have successful groups with a couple hundred members. It's a little tough to do it if you have 18 and most of them are your cousins, your parents, your neighbors. Not trying to suggest that. Don't, again, there's that comparison thing. Don't compare yourself to Mark or Amanda or anyone else. Just get out there, start your group. I'd say build the group that you wish that you had along your journey.
That's a great advice.
And, so there are a lot of people I know who are coaches now that maybe they lost a bunch of weight, and now they're in the health coaching field or they got through something difficult. That's why I say, look and try to be that support that you wish you had along the way with it. The other things, you got to talk it up. There's so many people who never mention their group or they post about it once and then they only get 1 person come in and they posted Wednesday night at 11:30 before bed. That was it. And I'm thinking, no, you got to talk about it every day. So with the Coaching Jungle, when I started in 2015, I talked it up constantly. Here we are in 2021. I'm still talking it up. I'm still inviting people in. I'm still talking about it everywhere I'm at. By the way, it's thecoachingjungle.com. Shameless plug if anyone wants to join. But I'm constantly talking it up. Other things are be active in your group. If you're not active in there every day, why should anyone else be active?
Yeah.
Here's a tip which I'll throw out there, which I do think is important, is that banner is very important real estate at the top of your group. So many coaches and group owners have no mention of themselves in that banner. So you don't know that it's Joe Smith's group or Mary Jones' group. And if you're putting in the time and effort to build a group, you want to make sure that people know that, hey, this is my group. And there's nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with monetizing it. I booted 2 people this week that were griping because I was selling in my group. Like, what's
well, I was getting ready to say, I'm a pretty active member in that group, and I don't really ever see much pitching from you at all.
Well, that's
Rarely
probably
do
a
I
bad
see
thing.
anything.
Maybe I need to do more.
I
Well,
think you
once it,
do need to do more because I rarely see it. And I see, you're very consistent with the types of posts that are done. And
yeah,
then the group members are also very active. But from you as the owner and as the person that can monetize, I don't see a lot of that. So that's funny that two people complained about it when I don't ever see it at all.
yeah, once a day, I'll usually put that post up because that's something I do, but it's not every post like, hey, you got to buy my stuff. But
Yeah.
it does say right in the description when people go to join, gives the rules and everything else. They can't sell on the wall, put links and all that. We have theme days for it, but it does say, by the way, I promote my own products and services here. If you're not cool with it, you should leave.
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of patience for people who it's a valuable community. There's a lot of great advice in there. It took a lot to build it up to this
Yep.
size. There's, I think it's a really good resource. I have to be compensated. I'm a capitalist. I'm not in this
Yeah.
to be a volunteer and make no money. Unfortunately, the coaching world has a lot of people with messed up ideas about money. I had a summit once many years ago. It was called the Command Higher Coaching Fees Summit. I was hosting it. You wouldn't believe some of the comments I had from coaches that were calling me greedy and coaching isn't about money. And, I, again, was worse than Hitler just because I put out there that coaches should be compensated. And I call them the Mother Teresa coaches. They think that you should be coaching barefoot in some distant village. And if you actually charge money and a lot of money, then you're evil or whatever. And then they wonder why they're struggling to make money. It's because they're bashing capitalism.
Yeah.
They're tweeting out number tax the rich, and they've got
Yeah.
the Bernie Sanders and AOC shirts on. Well, that could be a problem if you're trying to make money in a capitalist system.
That's right. And that's where we go back to just do what you are called to do, right? And charge what you feel is your worth, as well as the worth of the transformation that you're providing your clients. And I get asked that a lot, like how do they price their coaching or and I have a like a 3-prong model that I take people through to price their programs, but there's not just like one step formula for every single person. There's so many factors when it comes to pricing your program and your coaching and your time. So it's not uncommon for coaches to charge upwards of $30,000 for their services, and that's okay. It's also not uncommon to find a coach that charges $500 for their services, and that's okay too. So that's where we're back to that bubble of judgment. You just have to go with it and do what's right and what's, I think, ethical. I think that's a big word that we haven't even thrown out here in our conversation today when it comes to coaching and the online space is ethics and integrity. But as long as you're in integrity with what it is that you're offering, I think your price point can reflect that, and it's okay.
Yeah. It's tough because it's not a physical product. I just, at Christmas, one of the gifts I bought my son was a 3D printer because he's into that stuff. I go on Amazon, compare them. 3D printers for the most part are in the same range. I mean, there's some higher, some lower, but you don't get the kind of gap that you see or range with coaching, and that's fine. When it comes to coaching, it's like trying to nail Jello on a wall, like to try to, or the Wild West. You've got some that are charging $50 for a session or free, and then, like you said, you've got some charging $30,000, could be $100,000 or whatever. So it's tough because you hear people say, charge your worth, and all that. What I've always said to people, even though I'm not a real woo-woo guy, is you want to charge high enough that you feel good about it, not so high that you're feeling like, oh, okay, this, just isn't it. So I had a client, I've had a number of clients who've told me before, Mark, I'm just not feeling this price. Well, if you don't feel it and you don't think that you're worth it, it's going to be really tough to sell it. So I say, well, what do you feel like? What do you think it should be? And
I do the exact same thing.
Yeah, I say, great, go with that number, but please bump it up, as time goes on with it. But whatever you do, I hate seeing coaches charge peanuts for single sessions and try to cobble them all together. I just don't think that's the best way to do it.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. In fact, in 2020, I reduced all of my prices. And I think it was about April of 2020. And I just felt like it was the thing for me to do. I don't know. We were all just in disarray. Nobody knew what was going on. And I thought, right now I just want to help as many people as possible. And so I did reduce my rates. Now, what was the consequence of that was lower income for myself for last year. That's fine. It wasn't about the money at the time. I did help a lot of people, but I did see a very huge difference in the type of people that I was getting coming through my doors at that price point versus my higher ticket price points that I had had all along. And not saying that it was wrong, but it wasn't really in alignment with what I was really put here to do, which is move forward really fast with people that are ready to move forward really fast.
Yeah.
So my price point, they're all going back up actually this month, back to where they were. And that's only because I want to continue serving the people that I am here to serve at the level at which I can serve them. And you can think about that whenever you're doing your own pricing structure with your own programs, is who do you want to be attracting in to your world with that price point? The $97 per hour coaching client, there is a need for that service. Yes, but I am not the one that fills that need. So
Yeah. And it's your business, your rules. So, I mean, you could charge whatever you want. I find a lot of coaches get so worked up because they think that they're choosing a life partner. It's being etched in stone, and then they get to stick there for decades. It's like, no, you can change your prices if you want.
You can change anything, anytime.
Yeah. I had an Alexa flash briefing for 2 years ago. I ran it for a year. Those are little short 1-minute daily Alexa episodes. And I ran it for about 350-ish episodes. And I decided after a year that now this doesn't fit my model and I'm not really enjoying it like I thought I would. I already have my podcast and daily emails, everything else. There was a little pang of guilt because I don't like being a quitter, but I'm like, am I just going to do this just why, just to continue doing it? So I killed off the flash briefing, even though there's 300 and some episodes of it. I said, no, I'm just going to change it. It's my business, my rules. What would most people do? They'd be like, oh, well, I got to keep going. I've done it this long, so I'm going to keep going. And then they're miserable, and then they're making less money. So,
and that's the same with any part of the online, well, any business in general, but specifically online business. You got to try it. You just got to start, and then you can course correct as you go. But a lot of people get stuck in this thinking trap. And like you're saying, like they think they'll have to be married to this decision for the rest of their career doing this. And you know what? I pivot and I change stuff all the time. And the best way to do that is to actually start helping people and getting their real life feedback. And you can mold your program and take things out and add things to it as people are going through. You can only guess so much of what people need, right? Until they start going through your program with you, you're really going to see firsthand what they need. And you're going to be able to add that and make your program even stronger and better as you go. So the stuff that I do now, and probably I'll say the same for you, is not what I was doing 5 years ago. It has changed so much, not only based on my experiences and my network and everything else that I've done and my own learning, but the climate of our online world too. So many things have changed, come and gone, that, you just have to keep up with it and keep evolving, if you will.
Yeah.
And your prices can do that too. When I started my business, 2011, I would do almost anything for $500 a month. I was doing social media, WordPress, anything you could think of, copywriting, emails. I'd do all of that, all in one umbrella for $500 a month. But I had to start somewhere, right? And that's okay. And then as you grow and as you learn, as you become better, you get more results for people, you can change that. So
I was the same way. I remember early on helping people set up podcasts just because I had done my show was daily for the first year. So I had built up to 300 some episodes of my podcast really quickly. I had a lot of people approach me like, hey, Mark, how do I set up a podcast? All that. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'll set something up, set up a page with the info, started helping people there. I discontinued it because it was muddying the waters because I had people then saying, oh, Mark, you're helping coach. I thought you were a podcast coach. Like, no, I'm not a podcast coach. So I mean, I'll help the odd referral. Somebody, if it's a personal referral or a past client of mine approaches me, I will help them. I have something in place there. It's a lot more expensive than it was back in 2014, 2015. But I don't want to be known as a podcast coach. There's plenty of people I know that do podcast launch. But now that being said, that was important revenue in the early days to keep the lights on and keep going. That's the way I view it. You just got to hang in there longer than everyone else. If you can hang in and make it past those first couple of years, then usually it's a heck of a lot easier going forward. And that should be the name of the game. Not saying sell your body or anything or sell your soul to stay alive, in the early days, but sometimes you have to do things that maybe you're not super excited to do, but then you want to get away from that as soon as possible.
I think you just made a really great point that isn't talked about enough really in our space, is that it does take time. People think that they can just have this idea and they can build a funnel for it and they can just start making money right away. And that's just what's been taught, sort of messaged to us from marketers, expert marketers, from our bubble, right? And the people that I talk to the most that are ready to quit, they haven't even been in for 30 days. They thought it was going to be so much easier than this. And they thought it was, what I just said, like an idea, a funnel, and they're ready to make millions. And having that, the grit, I guess, and the resilience to just keep going and know that you're doing it for a bigger purpose, that's where you're going to stand out. I've been doing this for 10 years. And I feel like over the last, even the last 12 months have been pivotal for me. And, that's not indicative of what you see online. Like, oh, well, if you've been doing this for 10 years, you should be way further along than you are. But no, I've been very consistent for that 10 years. And I've been learning and connecting and growing and changing, all of that. And so I could have easily given up if I had bought into the story that it was going to be easy, but it's not. And I think it's okay to say that. What do you think? Like, nobody ever says it's going to not be easy. People try to sell you that it is easy to do this. And I just think it's not.
Well, my messaging is the same as that. I'm the opposite of a get-rich-quick type. So I like to think I'm a positive person, but I like to be a realist as well. Because if I go in there and I tell a client, yeah, you're going to be making 100K in your first month and stuff, and then they don't do it, they get dejected and it doesn't help, So I want them to know that, hey, this is going to be some tough days. You're going to have to roll up your sleeves. You're going to have some sleepless nights. You're going to be frustrated. You're going to feel like quitting more than once. And that's okay. That's just part of the journey. With it, those are the type of clients I want to work with. I don't want to work with the ones that get the hit of dopamine by buying stuff online, but then they never do anything with it. And I mentioned daily emails before. That's a good example. A lot of people ask me about daily emails because they know I've been doing them for years. And they say, I'm going to do it, Mark. And then they do it for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks. And I'll ask them, like, how's it going? Oh, well, I quit that. They don't work.
It doesn't work.
Oh, yeah, you did it for a week. And then they're off, doing Clubhouse or they're doing something else with it. So I'm not suggesting that you do something longer if you don't enjoy it. If you absolutely hate writing, you hate email, it makes you feel like you want to vomit, then do something else. But it took me at least 30 days of doing daily emails when I switched to that frequency until I started to see things coming from it. And every day I don't get sales. I send out a daily email. It's not like but I don't quit because I'm like, oh, gee, I didn't get a sale today.
Right.
Tomorrow's a new day and you keep going.
I had a call yesterday with a woman that I met 4 years ago at an event. And she's just now ready to have the next conversation. So if I had been gone, if I had quit or not just stayed consistent, we wouldn't have been able to have that connection.
I spoke with a coach once who had an amazing year. She had her best year ever. So she decided, this would be pre-COVID, obviously. She decided to reward herself after the new year. She booked an Airbnb somewhere warm, tropical down south. And her plan was to take the first 3 months of the year off, January, February, March, come back in April. And she thought, well, I'll be fine because that's such a great year. She told me when she got back that she basically had to start her business almost over from scratch. Her momentum was completely gone. Now, I don't say that to scare people, say don't travel once COVID restrictions are lifted. She could have done things down there just to stay front and center with people. But this is a type of business or industry that if you go missing in action for any length of time, people will forget you and then they'll go somewhere else. So that's why I like doing things that, every day I want to stay in people's eardrums. I want to stay in their line of sight, with what I'm doing. So perfect world, somebody's on my email list. They're in the Facebook Facebook group. They listen to my podcast. They're connected with me on various social media. And in case they miss something, they don't see the email that morning, they're going to see me later in the day and so on. So I think that's what you have to do. It's omnipresence to be everywhere.
Yeah. And I love that. Just ties it right back up to those 3 pillars that you've created for yourself and that you help your clients create for themselves, whatever those are. And it goes back to habits, right? And so it really becomes a habit in your day to do these things on a consistent basis. And if you're able to do that, you know what? I can pack up my laptop in my backpack and go anywhere. And that's one of the best parts of my business. And what you and I were talking before we started recording, that I'm traveling to Arizona next week with my son for travel ice hockey. I love being a hockey mom. I love traveling with my family, and being able to pack up my business in my backpack and be able to go is awesome. But the thing is to make sure that I'm touching my followers and my prospects and still doing some outreach almost on a daily basis. And a lot of that can be automated. So if I know that I have that kind of trip coming up, or kind of I want to unplug for a few days, I can set some stuff up to go out without me having to do it every single day. But the fact of it is there is something going out every single day, whether, like you said, a social media post, an email. I don't do a podcast every day. It's once a week for me. But yes, staying front of mind is, and especially in this crowded space, it is crucial to do that. So I love the 3 pillars takeaway that you've given us here today.
Yeah, no, it's something that I wish more coaches would be consistent. It's not always exciting. But I say it really is a superpower if you're able to do what you have to do. It's one of the things that kept my head screwed on tight in 2020 when everything went crazy with COVID, and all these coaches were running around like chickens with their heads cut off. I'm like, okay, well, my email's going out today. I'm doing that. I've got the podcast. I'm doing all the normal things. And that really helped, having that routine and that discipline from doing that. So choose your 3 pillars. If you take anything from this chat, pick your 3 pillars and then just be consistent with them. Put the blinders on and keep doing them. Don't get knocked off course by bright, shiny objects or people saying you have to be on insert hot social media platform of the day, or you have to be doing this. You don't have to be doing anything. There's enough choices on this menu for the coaching world, but you're fine. You got plenty of choice.
So I'll wrap it up here with just asking you one quick question about who is your ideal client? Who do you love working with the most? And who would be perfect to reach out to you if they want to work with you?
Yeah. So, I mean, I only work with coaches. Anyone else who approaches me that's not a coach, I refer them off to a coach that can help them with it. So my ideal client could be in any niche. I've worked with coaches that were sales coaches, relationship health coaches, business coach. I've just every coach in there. But I look more at the person. I want someone who's motivated. I don't have to pick them up and carry them on my shoulders. You know, they can actually do the work without me harassing them. It's nice to have ones that pay on time. That's a good one. I don't want to send Vinny with a baseball bat down to Florida or California, you know,
break your kneecaps.
To get paid. I want ones who set big goals. So not to knock people there's some coaches say, I want to make an extra $500 a month, you know, play money. They're not really my people. You know, I want ones that want to make more of an impact in there as well. So, and I want ones that are fun to work with. I have a no A-hole, no B-word policy. So I don't work with A-holes or Bs. I can't do it.
There's no reason to. There's no reason to.
There isn't. So if somebody says something along the lines to start off before we even work together, a good example to wrap things up. Somebody I gave my calendar link to book a call, and it didn't fit with his schedule. And he said something along the lines of, don't you know who I am? Well, anytime someone says, don't you know who I am, that's probably a red flag that they're a jerk. And he was like, you know, in Australia, he wanted me to get up at a god awful hour myself. And I said, you know what? I don't think that's going to work. Good luck, you know, with it. I don't want to work with people like that. So if someone is motivated, has big goals, pays on time, and isn't a jerk, we'll probably get along well.
That's amazing. Do you have a free gift for anybody listening here that you'd like to share?
Well, I created a roadmap for coaches, which is very clean, clear, concise. It's got the very original name, Coach's Roadmap for Success. But you can get that same way as if you're planning a trip from the East Coast, let's say to California, you probably want to have a map or GPS to take you there. So you can get a copy of that at naturalborncoaches.com. And I also mentioned, of course, my Facebook group, The Coaching Jungle. That's at coachingjungle.com.
My biggest takeaway, I'm going to say, is the 3 pillars. I just love it so much. And that's what's so cool about a good coach, is that you can just share something super simple, but it's just absolutely life-changing and can be so profound for the person that you're coaching. And I think that's an example of it right there. It's nothing crazy. It's just like, oh yeah, whenever you get to have an experience like that, I think it's amazing. So I really appreciate
Good stuff. I'm glad you got something from it, and I hope others took something from it as well.
For sure. Thanks so much, Marc, for your time today. I'm excited to have had you on, and I'll see you over in the jungle. How's that?
Yeah. Thanks, Amanda. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot. Hey, thanks for checking out this video. Subscribe and ring the bell if you haven't done that already. And if you'd like to check out more of our videos, go ahead and just tap the screen right here.